Good afternoon. My name is Alexis Gonzalez, and today I will be doing a film analysis on the following two films, China, the US, and the Rise of Xi Jinping, and Battle for Hong Kong. So for the first film, what I saw as a common theme or a very important concept was the rise of Xi Jinping's political power and also the way that he centralized politics. So we can see the consolidation of power and control over the Communist Party. And how we see this in the film is that the film shows how Xi Jinping ended term limits back in 2018, which gives them more power to stay in that role for life, something that we hadn't seen since the previous ruler, Mao Zedong. One of the interviewees in the film said, "She is not just the president, he's the head of military and the Communist Party, and everything goes through him." So that's just already enough, more than enough power for just one person. I also took note of one of the documents that was leaked. It's called document number 9. So in this document, it forswears any type of freedom of press, ideological restrictions. It removes any type of universal values like human rights. And the person that leaked this document was actually sentenced to jail. And how this relates back to what we learned in class is I want to point out one important quote from Mason's book, A Short History of Asia. The most striking feature of Xi Jinping's rise was the extent to which he consolidated personal power. So there's definitely a strong connection between the film and what we learned in class. We also see that Mason and the film, how it shows Xi reversing any previous reforms and centralizing power, reshaping China's domestic and foreign policies, and how we also see Xi Jinping's rise into power, especially after the 2008 Olympics, which was heavily used as propaganda. So I also saw how there was a common theme of geopolitical expansion and trade war, and how it led up to that. So in the film, we can see different types of details between China's global investment strategies to extend influence. Something that stood out to me was accusations of China stealing intellectual property, and driving the U.S. out of international business. We also see wolf warrior diplomacy that was used by China to criticize Western media. And a quote that relates back to this is from Mason's book, China's economic policy since the 1980s expanded its political influence through trade and investment. We can see that both sources highlight China's use of infrastructure and trade as tools of geopolitical strategy. So things that support this connection, this quote is also Xi Jinping's how he militarized South China Sea islands. And also the battle, this connects back to the film Battle for Hong Kong, because Hong Kong is a gateway for Chinese economic development. But after 1997, they were no longer a British colony, which is makes sense to why Xi Jinping would want to fight for Hong Kong and unify them to China altogether. We can also see Hong Kong and the erosion of its autonomy. This part of the film was very difficult for me to watch, to see such young protesters being shot, being beaten. And we see multiple protest scenes that show just crackdowns on the freedoms. We see protesters facing jail time for rioting, for even peacefully protesting, um, and how now it's considered against the law. And a lot of people in Hong Kong fear that they'll become a surveillance state like China. Um, we can also see that Hong Kong currently has a free press and internet, but if China continues to move on its communist agenda, this will no longer be. We can also see the connection between the book quote from Mason's book. Under Xi Jinping, this autonomy has been increasingly restricted. So there's definitely a strong connection between the film and Module 10, Objective 2. Mason warns about Hong Kong's future, and it's being realized in the film. What he talks about, it's being realized in the film, revealing a growing authoritarianism and resistance. Also in Objective 3, the film depicts clearly the end of one country, two systems, or near the end. and it supports the protests against the extradition bill of criminals being sent to mainland China. Um, and this is all because Hong Kong was a British colony until 1997, but there's a war happening between the people of Hong Kong, between protesters and the police, and just so much corruption happening. So my key insights that I took away from this is that together the films, both the films and the book, deepen our understanding of China's rise and the complex world it's reshaping. And it also illustrates China's authoritarian shift and its ambitions and the tensions that are growing between US and China. So this concludes my presentation. Here are my references, and thank you for listening.